I'm really excited. You've still got to have a plan, you've still got to have tactics, and already in 10 days, we're seeing results.
I'm just a lucky manager. So says Ruben Amorim after his Manchester United reign extended to 3 games unbeaten with a 4-0 thrashing of Everton at Old Trafford on the weekend. I'm Will Pugh and I'm back in the Tactics Exposed studio with Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. And Dino, as ever, at the beginning of a big week for Manchester United and after a big result at the weekend, you've got 5 tactical points that fans should be aware of, but they're not all from the game against Everton. Some of them are about their Arsenal game coming up.
Yeah, let's look back and look forwards. But first of all, Jay-Z, Joshua Zirkzee, goals, 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 and what that meant for Rashford. Secondly, 2 games for Amorim in the league, 2 different shapes, and then obviously how that could work for Arsenal. Amad, again, pressing his case and the help he got in that. And then I'm really impressed with game management, testing the squad and the system. And then finally, Manchester United, a set-piece routine that pays off.
Right, loads to cover, Dino. Before we get into the weeds of it all, Ruben Amorim, you think that all of this, I'm just getting a bit fortunate, is a little bit of sort of faux humility from the Portuguese. He's had a reasonably good start. Obviously, the draw at Ipswich, there was positives in that. Not the greatest result, but there seems to be a feeling of positivity. And you think that's a bit of a tactic in itself?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of a PR exercise where everyone's been talking about him and he just wants to play it down a little bit, especially if they're playing Arsenal in midweek. But look, they played really well. They scored loads of goals. They never won 4-0 at home under Erik ten Hag in the whole time he was there. So he's ticked a box there already. But Everton weren't very good. Let's start there. But within that, you've still got to have a plan. You've still got to have tactics. And already in 10 days, we're seeing results.
Yeah, well, goals, goals, goals for Jay-Z. Now, I know you love calling players by their first names. Giving them actual abbreviated nicknames is even a step too far for you. But Joshua Zirkzee, not been very popular at Old Trafford. And again, Rashford, as you called before Ruben's first game in charge, it was going to be a Rashford resurrection as well.
Absolutely, and this was a bit more like I expected it to be. It's taken 3 games. But it's a little bit more what I expected from Rashford. In that first game against Ipswich, he played as the 9. In this game, he played as one of those 2 full inverted forwards, off the front man. And what this game showed was a flying V, which is really exciting. I'm not sure you're old enough to remember the Mighty Ducks and the flying V.
So, mate,
that's great. I don't watch many films. That's one I have seen. But Zirkzee was the man who was coming deeper. It was a little bit like what we talked about with Nicholas Jackson in the Liverpool games before. And what Maresca wants from Jackson is to come into the line and come deeper.
Get those direct passes.
Exactly that. And we see really interesting, his average position, Zirkzee, was deeper than both of the other 2 forwards. And so it's a new role. It's not leading the line as a number 9. And what it did, it freed up Rashford. Because what it meant was it gave Rashford the confidence to go beyond him.
Yeah.
So as Zirkzee came in and linked up play, that meant Bruno again started in one of the more advanced positions, dropped back again later on. Kobbie Mainoo, who we were talked about being excited about, and those 2 interchanged a lot as well, and there was connections between those 2 players. But Zirkzee's role meant that the 2 players run beyond, and it's central attacks running beyond the central forward.
So just to sort of focus people's minds, if A, they haven't watched any of the previous episodes of Tactics Exposed, what on earth have you been doing? Or if they didn't watch the United game at the weekend, ultimately, Ruben Amorim sets up in this 3-4-3 formation, and the attacking 3 being the number 9 and 2 sort of like inside forwards, inverted 10s.
Precisely that, yeah. And
so
a lot of people...
Where was Zirkzee in this at the weekend?
So Zirkzee is the 9, but a lot of people were sort of calling it 3-4-2-1, which is not incorrect. However, what we saw in this game was an adaptation to that, where Zirkzee drops in and those 2 forwards go beyond. Bruno was in that inside left channel, where he, sent Ashley Young for a hot dog with a lovely nutmeg over there. And Rashford was running in behind. And not just running in behind. What the difference was here was running in behind with confidence. He had confidence that Zirkzee was going to hold it back. He had confidence that the ball was going to get given back to Kobbie Mainoo, played wide to Amad and Bruno, and then the ball's going to come in behind. And when you've got that confidence as a player, he's so quick, and then he makes those direct runs. It's fantastic. So, yeah, boy, they've had a really hard 10 days on the training ground. You can see it. They are buying into it. Rashford talked about it afterwards, where he talked about connections. And that's not just connections between manager and players, that's connection between players, where we've almost seen two front lines here. We've seen Garnacho with Højlund and with Bruno or Mount as the other forward. And then we've seen Xerxes with Rashford. And we might see those as pairs of connections. If he wants to play in a way where he wants the centre forward to drop into the line, it'll be Xerxes with Rashford running beyond.
Right.
If he wants to stretch defences in behind, it'll be Højlund playing as the 9, making those diagonal runs. And then he's got Garnacho being the busy player in behind. So straight away, 3 games in, we're finding connections already.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, Dino, but he started a few players already, a few people.
It's 21.
21.
21 players he started.
In 3 games?
In 3 games.
So he's giving people a chance. That much is obvious at first. Just on Xerxes there, before we move on, does he have a future at Manchester United?
Well, I've dug him out before. I've said how poor I think he is. I'm not fully accepting I was wrong yet. The 2 goals were tap-ins and it was against Everton. I want to see him do it against a very good side. But what you did see is that he's listened to what Amorim wanted him to do. It was just obvious in their setup, in their shape. And as soon as one of the 2 centre-backs got the ball or one of the wing-backs got the ball, Xerxes knew what he was doing, dropped into the space. And what that does against you as a defence, you've got a decision to make. Do you hold your line as a 3 or does one of you come out with him? And if you come out with him, you create that V as well, which creates all these angles for those players to run inside. But if you don't go and engage him, Branthwaite had a tough day. If you don't go and engage him, he's going to turn and play them in anyway. So it's really difficult. He had a good game.
Yeah, you've still got to beat what's in front of you. And tap-ins, they might just be tap-ins. You've got to be in the position, in it to win it, and all that sort of stuff. Right, Dino, 2 games in the Premier League and 2 different shapes. Now, we'll go into them in a bit more detail, but most Man United fans, like you say, you make a good point. It's Everton, we've drawn at Ipswich. The biggest test of the Amorim reign so far comes midweek, trip to Arsenal. We're going great guns, seem to have rediscovered a bit of their mojo as well with that thumping win at West Ham on the weekend. What does all of this mean from what you've seen so far, these 2 shapes? What does that mean for the United game? And generally against bigger sides?
Yeah, I don't expect them to go there and win. You know, that's a big leap straight away so early on in a manager's era. But what they do now go there with is a bit of belief in the system and a bit of belief that what Amorim, and as players, that's huge. You know,
systems?
Yeah, systems, absolutely. So what I mean here is that it is 3-4-3, okay? But already we're seeing that players can interchange and move into different areas. And as I say, Kobbie Mainoo, who's unfortunately suspended for this game, and Bruno Fernandes were switching positions, confident in each other that one of them was allowed to go forward. What we also saw was a connection between Ugarte and Kobbie Mainoo, where Kobbie was going and then Ugarte was staying, which was great. You know, Casemiro similarly. But what they did, and it's really interesting if you look at the average positions. Now, I'm not always wedded to average positions when I look at tactics, because you've got teams like Manchester City where all of a sudden you'll see Gvardiol in a inside left number 10 position because he's occupying a space, not with the ball. But this is really interesting from Manchester United's perspective, because in the first game against Ipswich, it was a clear 3-4-3 on the average positions. You could see it lined up. And then in this game, it was almost 4-4-2. And that's really interesting when we look ahead to Arsenal, because we've talked about Arsenal a lot defending in a 4-4-2 shape. So that almost goes man for man if he decides to go this way. And the reason it ended up 4-4-2 is because Mazraoui's playing as the right centre-back is a more natural fullback. So Amorim's OK with him drifting to that right-hand side. And then Dalot plays at left wing-back, more comfortable fullback. He almost comes in and makes it a back 4. And then Ahmad, who we'll get onto in a minute, was the right wing back, but given the licence to push forward. So you almost end up where a 3-4-3 becomes a 4-4-2. So we do get a bit obsessed by formations and tactics, but what we can see here is a bit of a fluidity already. And look, I know I got called out in the comments for being really excited about Ruben Amorim, but I'm really excited because 3 games in, he's turned a group of players who wouldn't know a tactic if it was thrown at them, into a group of players who are all of a sudden understanding that they can move into different positions. So fair play.
I think the problem might have been that no tactics were thrown at them during Eric Ten Hag's.
Yeah, the more we see it, the more I think that might be correct.
Exactly. Right. Amad Diallo, which is his full name, Dino, is pressing pressing his case big time. A little bit of a double meaning on the word pressing there, I think. Kobbie Mainoo as well. You were disappointed he was injured, so he couldn't start earlier in the Amorim regime. But talk to me about those two players.
Well, mobility. I think it's mobility, and it's fabulous to see. And you know, the goals, obviously, Amad had a great big role to play in how he pressed, and he hounded people on that side. And it was because of, as I say, that shape which allowed them to almost shift into a 4 at the back. That frees up Amad to be able to go and hound the left back or the left winger and not be too concerned about the ball being played around him. And Kobbie Mainoo's role in this was really key, and this is one for the nerds if we spotted this, OK? So this is where Kobbie Mainoo is the trigger for Amad's press, OK? We talk about press triggers. You can go when someone tells you to go or when you know you've got your mate covering you. And Kobbie Mainoo did that brilliantly for both the goals where Amad went and won the ball back. So Kobbie comes into this inside, Mainoo comes into the inside right position and he allows Amad the freedom to go and try and chase the ball. And look, he was fantastic, Amad, you know, really pressing on. And then when he gets it, the direct running that we've been talking about, and then Xerxes, Rashford, Bruno, all legging it at the box because they know what he's going to do. They know he's not going to pass it because Amorim has said to them, you run into the area. Yeah. And both those goals, the last goal Amad played Rashford in, and it was just a little pass right on the edge of the box. The first goal, get there, cross it. Okay, that's how they want to play. They're not going to play these through balls from 30, 40 yards out. So the attacking players on the edges of the box are not waiting for a pass. They are gunning it at the box.
It's funny because when you talk about it like that, driving into the box, I know it's different systems, but I hear Bukayo Saka, I hear Jarrod Bowen, those sort of quick, lively, powerful wingers who are almost targeting the corner of penalty boxes all the time. Can go either way, but ultimately, like you say, they're not crossing the ball from out wide. They're wanting to drive and get as close to the area as they can before. Then it's just those little passes as much as it is dinked crosses.
Absolutely,
we're going to see a lot more of that.
Much more of that. And I was sat in the Tottenham Stadium in midweek with my son, and he talked about how unbelievably good these players are now at close control with the dribbles at that point at the corner of the area. And as a fullback, you used to be able to say, don't let him in the area, don't let him in the area. But the problem is now is if you commit, then you're done. You're beaten. And then he's in the area on his own. So it's almost like if you don't commit a foul 30 yards outside the box, then you're waiting for your centre-back to double up on you so you can do a 2v1 job. So it's a very difficult position. But yeah, I was really, really pleased with Kobbie Mainoo and the way he played. Not only he got up and down the pitch, he looked fit, he looked really good, but also the way that he played is, you know, good mates with Amad Diallo, he's good mates with Marcus Rashford, been in the system with them, and they knew what each other was doing, and that was really positive.
Yeah, 21 players then so far. Dino, it's all very well giving all of those players a chance, but especially these days with the 5 substitutions, in-game management, the spotlight is on managers around that topic, is it not? And you've been pleased with what you've seen from Amorim so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only just 21 players and Onana being the only one who's played all 90 minutes, by the way, as well. But, you know, they've actually had 3 managers since Man City won a game as well. So there's a bit of interchange in there as well. That's one for the United fans to throw at their City counterparts. But yeah, so he's managed the game really well. So you look at this game, Lisandro Martinez was at left centre-back. That will, we think, be the number one choice there, and throughout the game, he'll be the one. But then, in the game, he got booked. So he's suspended against Arsenal, can't play. So didn't take him off. Good decision, didn't take him off. What he did is he moved him over to right centre-back, a more uncomfortable position for him perhaps, but brought on Luke Shaw. And that then means that Luke Shaw has got some minutes and probably will be the one who plays against Arsenal this week, probably.
In which position?
As the left centre-back, not the wing-back.
Yep.
And then that also means that he also got Maguire on to get Maguire some minutes. He might be needed in midweek with Martinez suspended. And that's what he's done very, very well. Substitutes at 55, 60 minutes. He's looked after people like Rashford and Højlund already. Kobbie Mainoo wasn't rushed back. You know, he's got Ugarte, who he's managed his minutes because he's going to be a big player under Amorim. Don't doubt that. And also, what happens now is we're looking at Bukayo Saka. You've mentioned him already. You know, we know what we're talking about. Odegaard and Saka on that inside right channel for Arsenal. And already in that game, Amorim's planning ahead. He's already looking, right, Martinez can't play, suspended. That's an in-game decision. Didn't know he was going to get booked. He's suspended for that game. him and his coaching team, there was a moment where he leapt to a coach behind him, and then they came down, he made a change, Shaw came on. And what I think we'll probably see is Dalot as the left wing-back again, or Mazraoui as the left wing-back, depending on how he sees it, and then Luke Shaw as the left centre-back. And that basically means 2 left-backs playing against Bukayo Saka.
Well, but that's not uncommon, is it? Kyle Walker we've seen for England in that back 5 and the right centre-back.
Exactly.
Like, it's almost, weirdly, it's quite an attacking thing to do, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But it's also about balance. And we talked about that in that first show where he likes complementary players on different sides of the field or different positions. So, one sort of tackler, nasty piece of work in midfield and one baller. Yeah, and then as the, in the front 3, you've got your striker, and then you've got one runner and one ball player. You've got your Bruno and your Rashford.
Yep.
And the wing-backs is the same. He's got Ahmad, who has got the freedom to run and, blast at full-backs. And he's got Dalot, who's got a more, confined role and has got a more defensive responsibility. So there's more balance there. And, you've got to plan for Bukayo Saka. You can't just go, it's all right, we'll go, I know you were at the London Stadium and you saw that if you don't have a very good plan for Bukayo Saka, you see what happens.
Do not want to talk about it.
Yeah, but also, I also think there's an important one to note here is that there was 2 players not even in the squad at Old Trafford, and Eriksen and Evans.
Yep.
Has he given them their audition and has he seen enough?
Well, we spoke about it, didn't we, on Tactics Exposed, and it just feels Johnny Evans less so. He was always sort of a bit part player. That's what he arrived at Old Trafford for. Won't be uncommon, or I don't think too many fans will be scratching their heads seeing him out the squad completely. But Eriksen, we mentioned it already, didn't we? I think it was that Ipswich game.
It was, and it was about the legs in midfield, and and Kobbie Mainoo just has highlighted that fact.
Absolutely. Right, last point, Dino. Set-piece routines. We're seeing Arsenal. Remember Arsenal, how they used to really give Stoke City a load of grief because of the way they played? Arsenal are very much the modern-day Stoke City.
2.0, yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. And look,
Mikel Pulis.
Yeah, I'm going to give Lopetegui a credit here because I actually agree with him. I think it was a foul at the near post, but that doesn't...
It was 100% foul. Check the whistleblower with Mark Kelsey this week's episode.
Quite right. We won't do too much refereeing, but the tactic, obviously, there's a tactic there from Arsenal set pieces to get the front post man under the ball. So Man United have got to watch that. They've got to put someone really, if Xerxes starts, put Xerxes there. Right. If Højlund starts, put Højlund there. Someone physical enough that he's not going to get a little nudge in that Paqueta sort of, a stiff breeze would have blown him over, and Timber's giving him a shove, and he's on his way. So put somebody there to deal with that. But let's focus on United a second, because I saw something for the first time I've never seen this week. They did it against Bodo Glimt, and they did it again before the game against Everton. I've never seen a professional team, practicing corners on the field in the warm-up.
Yeah, right.
You see teams line up and play little interchanges, back fours, pushing up and dropping back. You see, sometimes you see fullbacks clipping the ball up the line because they've got this ball they want to play to the wingers. Never seen corners done like this. Man United were actually full-on practicing corners in the warm-up. Maybe Amorim did so much on the training ground this week, they didn't have time to do corners. So he said, don't worry, we'll do it the weekend.
Quickly better do a set piece.
Let's do a set piece. But he's showing off now because Man United, who haven't had a clue with them for months and years, straight away had a corner routine. They all ran from the edge of the box to the 6-yard line and basically became like a wall of blockers. And all the Everton players suckered, fell for it, went towards the 6-yard line. Marcus Rashford peels off, side foot in. It was lovely. It was a lovely routine. And look, he had to score through the crowd, and whether it was his goal or not is a bit of a debate, whether it was going in or wide. But all of them did their job. You saw Kobbie Mainoo holding on to Tarkowski to make sure he couldn't get out to Rashford. So, yeah, straight away a corner routine, but they're going to have to do defensively a bit better against that Arsenal juggernaut.
Yeah, is that the sort of thing you can pick up quite quickly, or is that going to take a bit of time?
I think you can pick up a routine relatively quickly. Amorim will have shown them an AI graphic of how, I want you to do it. Whether you can pull it off straight away. And attacking ones are much easier to get that right on because everyone's got a role. Yep. You're going to run here. And then you've only got to think about your job. Obviously, defending them, you've got a lot more jobs to think about because Arsenal, as we saw there, at the London Stadium, just disrupt everything. They're blasting people out of the way. They're stopping you doing your job, and the knock-on effect is it stops you doing somebody else's. So yeah, they've got to be worried about that. Maybe there's an argument for Maguire playing You know, another big set piece. You know, maybe that's where the Xerxes comes in again, because he'll be defensively at set pieces, you know, a bit bigger. So yeah, there's some. It's going to be a big week. It's going to be a big week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if Amorim's style can work against a better team.
Right, coming in, Dino. Arsenal away in the Premier League. Biggest test for Ruben Amorim so far. Who's going to play? What's the score going to be?
I don't think they'll win. I think if they get a point there, it'll be sensationally good. I still fancy Arsenal to win it, but I'd like to think that they're going to give them a better game this time. Yeah,
Starting 11.
Onana. I think maybe Maguire, De Ligt, and Shaw as the back three, right to left. Mazraoui, if he's comfortable enough that he doesn't need Maguire at set pieces, and then either Mazraoui or Dalot as the left wing back to play as that second left back when needed. Amad Diallo will absolutely play on the right. Mainoo suspended, so we'll probably see Ugarte in there with perhaps Bruno back in that 8 role again, and then maybe we'll see Mason Mount and Marcus Rashford off either Xerxes or Højlund. And if he likes that setup as I talked about, maybe it'll be Xerxes with Rashford. Otherwise, it could be Højlund with Garnacho. So I'm not even giving you a proper lineup there, have I? But I've given you all the options.